In this breathing drill, I'm going to teach you how to find and sense your proximal hamstrings. You're going to be laying down on the ground and you will need either a wall to put your feet on, a box, a bench, something of that nature. I do ideally want the whole bottom of your foot against a surface. I'm going to be doing this against a box, but a lot of times people will do this against a wall. Please know that if you have trouble finding your proximal hamstrings using your feet up against a surface and not having anything underneath your legs, then you can put your calf up on top of a surface. So you can put from your knee down up on top of a bench or a chair, and that can give you access many times to finding the proximal hamstrings a little bit easier if you have trouble doing it with just your feet on a surface. All right, so we're gonna lay down on the ground together, so make sure that you are in a good position to do that, and I will meet you there. To get set up for this, we are going to have our feet, knees, and hips all at 90 degrees. So I want to make sure that I'm not on the tops of my feet or just on my heels. I want to feel my whole tripod foot against the wall. Then I'm going to have my knees at 90 degrees and my hips at 90 degrees. From there, we want to make sure that we just start to really settle into this position. Now, a lot of times what people will get wrong when they're trying to find their proximal hamstrings is they try too hard. This isn't something that you can really force. This is very subtle at first, especially when you are first finding what they feel like. To help give you a little more context, proximal just refers to the part of the hamstring that we're looking to feel. It's not a separate hamstring muscle. It is the part of your hamstring muscle that attaches up into your ischial tuberosity. So my goal is for you to feel a sensation of activation or working right above your glutes. It is okay if you also feel this in the meat of your hamstrings down your legs. What we don't want is only feeling this sensation behind our knees in this distal part of our hamstring, okay? We're really looking for more of that proximal attachment, some feeling of working, activation, something turning on here and or in the meat of our legs. So to get started, again, we're in this 90-degree position with our feet, our knees, and our hips. What I want you to do first is gently just kind of rock your pelvis forward and then rock your pelvis back. As you're doing this, you should feel that you kind of move a little more onto your sacrum, even your tailbone perhaps. And then as you rock your pelvis back towards your rib cage, you're gonna feel that you're moving a little more onto your low back. As you're doing this, start to check in with yourself and make sure that you're not squeezing your butt to make this motion happen. A lot of times when we go to move our pelvis up towards our rib cage, we'll want to squeeze on our glutes to make that happen. But we don't need to do that. You don't need to squeeze your glutes to move your pelvis. So make sure you can keep your glutes super, super soft the whole entire time. Sometimes I even literally like to press on here and jiggle. That way I give myself that feedback of keeping things super soft. Now I want you to find that spot that's right about in the middle for you. So it shouldn't feel like you're way up on your low back, and it also shouldn't feel like you're just dumping forward. So kind of right in the middle, maybe even a tiny bit more up towards your low back. Settle in on that spot and then make sure you kept those glutes nice and soft, okay? So we want them jiggling. Now from here, I want you to sense that you can feel all of your foot against the wall that you're using. I want you to think about pulling down the wall with your heels. Give this a 3 out of 10 effort. Don't try and do anything crazy here, okay? So 3 out of 10. What you may feel first is like, oh, that spot behind my knees, it just automatically came on, okay? That's good. We found your hamstrings, but not the part that we're looking for. So I want you to try and soften behind your knees and then pull down again a little bit more. What we're looking for is to get the sensation lower in our hamstrings. And again, this may take a little bit of doing, and it is subtle, especially at first. So we want to think about pulling down through the middle of our heels, and we're not pushing into the wall. Other things we can do to really kind of help facilitate a little more hamstring is make sure that the quads stay really nice and soft, okay? We should have jiggly quads here. You can just kind of jiggle on them a little bit, and we're pulling down with those heels. Feel free to play with the position of your pelvis a little bit more. You may feel that if you tilt it a little tiny bit more upwards, you're like, aha, I got it. I got some feeling in those hamstrings. It is okay if the feeling is a 1 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10. If it's subtle, it's still there. This is not going to feel like a 10 out of 10 sensation. So again, we're just looking to be able to feel this part of our hamstrings right here and in the more meaty part right here. So pulling down. Good. Play with the pelvis position just a little bit. And then checking in again, quads nice and soft, glutes nice and soft, okay? So we want to make sure we can get hamstrings without having to have our glutes kick on. This is really important because those proximal hamstrings are going to be what helps us really get into that posterior pelvic floor and make sure we can get great length back there. All right, so if we're doing this as a breathing drill, then we're gonna hold this position where we're like, okay, yeah, I've got those proximal hamstrings, I feel my hamstrings working, and we are going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. We're just gonna do that 10 times at your own pace. So I would just lay my hands down by my side, pulling down with the heels, making sure I've still got those proximal hamstrings. I'm gonna breathe in and out. As you breathe out, just feel those ribs settle down. As you breathe in, hold a bit of tension in your abs. We want to make sure we're kind of just continually scanning and checking. Do you feel the proximal hamstrings? Exhale. And continually just looking for that gentle sensation in the proximal hamstrings. All right, that is how to find your proximal hamstrings.